It takes an exceptional mind to cross the frontier between sanity and madness at will.
Insanity, when you're really in it, it's like a dream which you can't wake up. Nowadays, as the dream is ending, I realize that it is a dream, and then I wake up.
John Nash Jr. represents two of the greatest extremes of the human mind, a Nobel Prize-winning mathematician and a long-time victim of schizophrenia. As a graduate student in 1950 at Princeton University, Nash helped pioneer an entirely new field of mathematics called game theory. His groundbreaking ideas are at the root of modern economic theory. But it would take over 40 years before Nash was rewarded the Nobel Prize in Economics for that very theory. 40 years because, in 1959, at the age of 30, his remarkable mind short-circuited, and John Nash Jr. was hospitalized against his will for schizophrenia.
The first time I was taken to the McLean, which is a very highly rated hospital, there were policemen. I struggled with them a little at the doorway, but resistance was futile. And we realized I'd been captured like a chess man on a chessboard.
For the next 30 years, Nash's life swung back and forth, from the depths of insanity to the heights of intellectual reasoning, from homelessness in the streets of Europe to an honorary position at Princeton. His brain was subjected to insulin treatment, electroshock, high doses of medication. And still today, Dr. Nash is in a constant struggle between irrational and rational thinking.
So ultimately, I managed to get beyond hospitalization, but without actually being sane. But it, in a sense, was a sort of forced lucidity. I was forced to accept normal thinking. So when I returned to the delusional thing, I felt like I was escaping from having been under thought police that were forcing me to behave normally.
Your sister?
John Nash had two sons before he developed schizophrenia. Nash has passed on both his genius and his schizophrenia to his younger son, Johnny. Dr. Nancy Andreasen has come to meet with Nash, his wife Alicia, and their son as she pursues her research in the links between creativity and mental illness.
So, you're a psychiatrist?
I'm a psychiatrist, yeah.
What's your name?
My name's Nancy.
Nancy.
Andreasen is the last name.
I see.
I'd like to talk to you, a little bit about what you were interested in when you were growing up. Your experiences playing chess.
Okay, just leave me with questions. I'll try to answer them.
Okay. When you first started having symptoms, as we would say,
I was in my teens.
you were in your teens.
I was a born-again Christian. I was a fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
I was a religious fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
And the voices I heard, I interpreted them all as God,
Mm-hmm. What kinds of things did the voices say?
I walked out into the middle of the highway, and they wanted me to stand there in the middle of the highway.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing, pretty severe.
Pretty severe.
Yes. I didn't realize that my father had passed on anything to me. I was just caught by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was not savvy like you psychiatrists, know that sort of thing runs in the family.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I was completely caught by surprise. I was flipped out at the time. I had given up my chess and my math. But I didn't really suspect that I was headed for a mental hospital.
So you were in your teens, but you also managed to recover enough so that you were able to go back and eventually get a PhD in math.
Well, that's a remarkable thing, that during my religious insanity, I lost all ability to do mathematics. I had been a mathematical genius, 800 on the SAT, on the achievement test. But I lost all ability to do mathematics. I couldn't add a column of numbers. But then I went back to school. The voices disappeared, and I took up math again. And I regained all my mathematical abilities I had lost. And I went on to get a PhD, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I published and I taught, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I followed in my father's footsteps to do honor to my father, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And
Johnny Nash, like his father, often experienced periods where he was able to regain his full intellectual capacity. But the psychosis would always reoccur, making life a roller coaster between insanity and lucidity.
But I'm still suffering, you know, the symptoms of mental illness. You know, I hallucinate, I still hallucinate, you know, but I can function. I function despite the mental illness, functioning schizophrenia.
Well, you mentioned hallucinations. What do you mean explicitly? You mean a voice, or what do you mean?
Both auditory and visual.
You see something?
Yes.
What do you
Didn't
see?
you know that I have visual hallucinations?
Well, you claimed it once in the hospital. I remember one time.
You're not keeping up with me at all if you don't know that I have visual
You don't
hallucinations.
confess. Well, what is it? What's happening?
I have visual hallucinations,
What
Dad.
do you see?
I see things in the air that aren't there, you know.
How do you know? I mean, like ghostly figures or what? Like
like ghosts, yeah.
shadows? You see shadows?
I see, you know, in the air.
So it must be shadows, right? What do you see in the air?
You could call them shadows. And he hasn't even kept up with me.
Well, you haven't said that
Well,
you
it's
see
real
something.
hard.
We don't see it. You have to tell us that you
Yeah.
see.
it's, you know, your parents are not your doctors, and so they don't want to intrude on your life.
That's too bad. Well, it's been a pleasure.
It's been very nice talking to you. Thanks very much.
Anger, withdrawal, isolation, denial. The symptoms of the disease and the reaction to them make treatment only more difficult.